Welcome back, Sebastian here. Time for my review for the 2024 Canadian Grand Prix. That was a pretty chaotic race, a pretty fun race. You weren't really sure who was going to win until the end. While the result was one that, it's something that we've seen many times the last couple of years. That being said, everything that happened from the start of the race to the checkered flag was very exciting. So, yeah, definitely more exciting, I would say, than the result would seem. So, the Saubers were starting from the pit lane, deciding to go for a wet setup. Russell was obviously starting on pole and Verstappen P2 after they tied in qualifying yesterday. Track quite damp. All drivers were on the intermediate except for the Haas boys who were on full wet tires. A very slow start, but Russell did hold on to the lead. There was contact further back as Gasly was spun around by Sergio Perez, and yeah, I think lost a couple positions there as well. The Frenchman did. Hamilton also got ahead of Daniel Ricciardo on that opening lap. Magnussen was up to 9th, and Leclerc cuts the final chicane, struggling with the car, and we find out later that the car was indeed not well. Lap 2, the Haas were having a really strong race. They were up to 6th and 10th respectively. Lap 5, Leclerc comes on the radio saying that he has an engine issue and he's really struggling down the straights. Lap 5, the Haas's are starting to slow relative to the rest of the field, so that great decision to go on the wet tires for the start of the race, while it looked like a great decision for those first 5 laps, I think it's the luck or the pace kind of started to fall towards everyone else's way. Lap 6, Sargent was off at turn 6, but he was able to continue on. Lap 7, Leclerc was losing half a second on the straight according to his engineer. Lap 8, track is too dry. Magnussen decides to pit for intermediate tires and drops back to about roughly where he started the Grand Prix. Lap 10, Verstappen was closing in on Russell, who was of course still leading. Lap 11, Hulkenberg, still on those wet tires, was forming quite a train behind him because it was basically just that one dry-ish line. Drivers couldn't really afford to go off track, so it was quite difficult for the cars behind to overtake Hulkenberg. Lap 12, Ricciardo received a 5-second penalty for a jump start. We saw the onboard from his view. Didn't really look like a jump start, so one of those ones where perhaps we'll get further clarification afterwards. But yeah, a bit unlucky, I think, given from at least from the onboard camera. Didn't look like he really gained anything. He didn't even jump. It didn't look like he jump started, and even if he did, probably would have gained very little. Let's see. So Hulkenberg then pitched that following lap. Again, another driver who was on those wet tires. Rain, and at this point, rain was expected to fall in 10 to 20 minutes, and this was a massive conundrum for the drivers, for the teams, as they really wanted to go onto soft tires, but they knew that if the rain came, that would force them to do an extra pit stop, so they were basically just trying to hold on the intermediate tires as long as possible. Verstappen runs a bit wide at turn 1, but doesn't lose a position to Norris behind, and that was on lap 17. Lap 20, good battle between Albon and Tsunoda. They were changing places for that battle for P10, P9, I believe it was. Lap 20, Norris overtakes Verstappen for P2 at turn 13. Norris very quick at this stage in the race with the drying track conditions. Lap 21, Norris overtakes Russell for the lead of the race at that same corner, and Russell then goes off kind of in the runoff at the Wall of Champions area, and Verstappen gets past him up to P2. So now Norris is in the lead, Verstappen P2, and Russell is in P3. Lap 24, rain coming, according to the forecasts. Sargent was in the wall then at turn 4, and we get a safety car. Verstappen, Russell, Piastri all pit, all on intermediate tires. Alonso, Hamilton pit as well. Norris then pits a couple laps later, so he was a couple laps after. So while we're still under the safety car, it was basically a lap behind the Verstappen, Russell, Piastri group, and he actually loses the lead and comes out P3. So despite the fact that it's under the safety car, you in theory shouldn't lose too much. For whatever reason, he lost 2 positions there, so a bit unlucky for Norris. Lap 29, Leclerc has a 24-second pit stop. Basically, they had to shut the car off and try to reset the car to try to fix whatever was going on there. That was causing them to lose half a second in the straights. Safety car ends, and Verstappen is now leading. Lap 31, Albon overtakes Ricciardo and Ocon. An excellent overtake there, really bold move, basically overtaking both of them at the Wall of Champions. Lap 33, I believe that is. Lap 33, Sainz loses his front wing end plate, drives into the back of Bottas. Leclerc pits for dry tires, and at this point he's almost lapped. Oh no, he pit during the safety car on laptop, put the hard tires on, was forced to pit again because the track was not ready, pitted for intermediates. He was almost lapped. And a couple laps later, lap 37, he was lapped. So his race was going from bad to worse very, very quickly. Lap 40, track was drying. DRS activated. Tsunoda, Ocon, and Bottas were yet to pit, so they did not pit during that safety car period. So they were kind of well clear of everyone else, and they were all still on their initial set of intermediate tires. Lap 41, Gasly pits for hard tires, goes off but continues. Norris makes the same mistake that Verstappen made earlier at turn 1, and Leclerc retires in the pit. So either they decide lap down wasn't really worth putting more strain into the engine, that kind of thing, and just deciding to retire the car, or the engine issue came back. Lap 49, Hamilton pits for medium tires. Ricciardo, Sainz, Perez pit as well. And then lap 45, Piastri pits. So this is where the track really dried out, and everyone was basically trying to pick the optimal lap to pit for those dry tires. Alonso, Tsunoda, Stroll also pit there. In lap 45, leaders pit. Zhou pit has a pit stop disaster. Looks like it was a 50 to 60 second pit stop, and he would end up a lap down. Norris sets 2 fastest laps, and he pits basically to try to overcut the leaders like Verstappen. In lap 48, he comes out ahead of Verstappen at this point, but the tires were not really warm enough. She was sliding around a bit, and he unfortunately loses the lead of the race after about 20 meters or so. Verstappen's back in the lead, holds that lead through that pit stop phase. Lap 49, Russell overtakes Norris for P2 at turn 13. Lap 51, Russell makes a mistake. I believe that was at turn 3, and thus allows Norris to get up to P2. Lap 51, Perez has a broken rear wing, and it turns out he went slightly offline at turn 5 or turn 6, I believe, and just kind of goes oversteers and just goes backwards into the wall, completely destroys his rear wing. Luckily for him, he was able to continue and is able to go back to the pits. Then we cut to Sainz doing donuts on the grass and through turn 6. And what had happened was that he basically, again, same corner as Perez, made a small mistake, basically probably went a bit too hard on the throttle and spun. On this, unfortunately, when he spun, he basically went to the left. Now, unfortunately, took Albon out. Albon was a car right behind him. Not really much whole lot he could do, but really unfortunate for him, as he looked like he could have gotten some good points. But yeah, Sainz able to keep going, but yeah, spinning on the grass for a bit and then retires in the pits. Then let's see what we got. A safety car. Yeah, we got a safety car, but Russell and Hamilton both pit. Sainz DNF, like I said, and lap 58, the safety car ends. So basically, Russell drops behind Piastri, who he was ahead of initially, and now the 2 Mercedes are on 10-lap fresher tires, and they're going to be trying to make up as much ground as possible on the cars ahead of them. Ocon up to P8, really good job for him, I thought, at this stage, after of course starting P18, and with that grid penalty. Lap 62, Russell starting to put pressure on Piastri. Then lap 63, contact between Russell and Piastri at that turn 13. I felt that it was something that was going to be investigated by the stewards after the race. They might have come to a decision, but I thought it was pretty clear that there was going to be no further action for that. Piastri was entitled to that space there on the inside, given he was almost like half a tire behind Russell. But then Russell loses position to Hamilton because of that, goes off into the runoff area. Lap 66, Hamilton overtakes Piastri for P3 at turn 13. Lap 67, Russell overtakes Piastri, P4 at turn 13, so eventually gets past. At this point, the Mercedes much quicker on those new tires. Tsunoda then goes off at turn 8, very, very close to a massive accident with Hulkenberg or one of the other cars. He basically goes off through the runoff area, I believe turn 8-9, I believe it is. And he basically goes backwards and then comes flying across the not really flying, but he re-enters the track backwards. And the cars basically have to go right and left to try to avoid him. Very, very close for a couple of those. So luckily, the drivers, driving like F1 drivers should, and managing to avoid that. But yeah, for Tsunoda, a bit of an off there, a bit of a small mistake. Lap 69, Russell then gets past Hamilton for P3 at turn 13. So despite losing that position to his teammate earlier, with that first attempt to get past Piastri, he was able to get past. And we get to the final lap of the race, and yeah, Russell not able to make up more ground, make a move on Norris, and Verstappen takes the checkered flag to win a very exciting 2024 Canadian Grand Prix. One of the best Grand Prix, I would say, of the year. A lot happening, a lot of incidents. So I'll definitely have a lot to talk about in my power rankings tonight. So going over the results of the race, Verstappen was joined on the podium by Norris and Russell. Hamilton P4, missing out on that first podium of the year. Piastri 5th, 6th Alonso, 7th Stroll. Good result for Aston Martin. I felt didn't really have the pace of the leaders, but nonetheless a decent haul of points. 8th Ricciardo, good showing, a bit of a scrappy race, but in the end got to a good position. 9th Gasly, not sure how that happened. Ocon was in 8th with a handful of laps left to go. I guess tires were a bit too worn, I guess, at that stage. So yeah, Ricciardo and Gasly finish ahead of Ocon, and then 11th and 12th of the two Hasses, Hülkenberg ahead of Magnussen, 13th Bottas, 14th Tsunoda, 15th Show. And then you have your DNFs, Sainz, Albon, Perez, Leclerc, and Sargent. Double DNF for Williams, double DNF for Ferrari, an absolute disaster for them. Problems basically since qualifying with that bungling of the tire strategy in Q2. And yeah, they've lost a lot of ground in that Constructors' Championship to Red Bull. Now, speaking of championships, I'm going to finish off with just a look at the Drivers' Championship. Verstappen extends his lead 194 points. Leclerc is now on 138. Norris in third, very close behind, 131 points. Sainz fourth, 108th. 5th, Perez, 107. So that means 3 of the top 5, no points today. So Norris was really the big winner there, and of course Verstappen. 6th, Piastri, 81 points. 7th, Russell, 69. 8th, Hamilton, 55. 9th, Alonso, 9th, Alonso, 41. 10th, Tsunoda, 19. 11th, Stroll, 17. 12th, Ricciardo on 9. 13th, Behrman on 6. 14th, Hülkenberg on 6. 15th, Gasly on 3. 16th, Albon on 2. 17th, Ocon on 2. And then Magnussen 18th with 1 point, and then Joe, Bottas, and Sargent all on 0 points. So there you go. There's my review of qualifying, or not qualifying, of the Grand Prix for the 2024 Canadian Grand Prix. Really exciting race. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Anyway, I'll be back later tonight with my power rankings. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.